For weeks, an entire town was gripped by an unstoppable, deadly rhythm. This wasn't a metaphor, nor some ancient poetic lament. This was Strasbourg, July 1518. A heatwave hung heavy over the city, and with it, a strange affliction began to spread. Not a fever, not a rash, but a compulsion, a relentless urge to move. It started with one woman, Frau Trafia. On July 14th, she stepped into the street and began to dance. Not a joyful jig, but a furious, uncontrolled flailing. For hours she danced without rest, without food, without water. Bystanders watched, bewildered. Within days, others joined her. First, a handful, then dozens. The streets of Strasbourg transformed into a bizarre, horrifying spectacle. Men, women, and even children caught in an invisible current, unable to stop their frantic movements. The authorities, initially perplexed, tried to understand. Was it a curse? A divine punishment? They consulted local physicians, who, lacking any medical explanation, concluded it was a heart-blood disease, a natural illness exacerbated by the summer heat. Their proposed cure? More dancing. Yes, you heard that correctly. The town council believed the dancers needed to literally dance it out of their system. They designated 2 guild halls and a grain market for the afflicted, even hiring musicians to accompany them. They even constructed a large wooden stage, open to the elements, for the dancers. The logic was simple. If it was a disease of hot blood, then exhausting themselves would purge it. What they didn't anticipate was the sheer scale or the tragic outcome. The numbers swelled, reaching perhaps 400 people. The dancing became more desperate, more violent. Their feet bled, their bodies convulsed, their faces contorted in agony. This wasn't a party, it was a public theater of suffering. Within weeks, the deaths began. Heart attacks, strokes, sheer exhaustion. Up to 15 people a day were reportedly dying. The very cure was accelerating their demise, turning a strange malady into a mass fatality event. The council, realizing their mistake, reversed course. They banned public dancing, gambling, and even prostitution for a time, believing these vices provoked God's wrath. The musicians were dismissed, the stages torn down. Instead, they turned to spiritual remedies. The afflicted were taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, a patron saint believed to cure dancing sicknesses. Priests performed rituals, placing special shoes on the dancers' feet, praying for their release. Slowly, painstakingly, the plague subsided. By September, the dancing had largely stopped, but the memory, the sheer bewildering horror of it, lingered. What could possibly explain such an event? Modern historians and scientists have proposed several theories. One popular idea points to ergotism, a poisoning caused by a fungus that grows on rye, producing hallucinogenic and convulsive effects similar to LSD. However, ergotism typically causes gangrene, hallucinations, and painful convulsions, not sustained, rhythmic dancing. And while some symptoms might align, the prolonged, synchronized nature of the Strasbourg plague doesn't fit neatly. Another, more compelling theory is that of mass psychogenic illness, or MPI. This is when a group of people experiences similar physical symptoms without an identifiable physical cause, often triggered by extreme stress or anxiety. And Strasbourg in 1518 was a powder keg of stress. The city had endured severe famines, widespread poverty, and devastating diseases. Crop failures, political instability, and religious tension created an atmosphere of pervasive dread. Superstitions also played a significant role. The belief in curses, demonic possession, and the power of saints like Vitus to inflict or cure dancing sicknesses was deeply ingrained in the popular psyche. In such an environment, the sight of one person dancing uncontrollably could easily trigger similar symptoms in others, especially those already mentally and physically vulnerable. The mind, under duress, can manifest illness in astonishing ways. Historical records show other outbreaks of similar dancing manias across medieval Europe, though none as prolonged or deadly as Strasbourg's. The Rhine Valley, in particular, seemed prone to these peculiar epidemics. The dancing plague of 1518 stands as a chilling testament to the fragility of the human mind and body, when confronted with overwhelming environmental and psychological pressures. It was a societal breakdown, played out in frenzied, fatal movement. It forces us to confront the idea that sometimes the most profound illnesses aren't just biological, but deeply embedded in our collective fears and anxieties, capable of pushing us beyond the limits of endurance. The story of Frau Trafia and the hundreds who followed her serves as a potent reminder of how easily the line between sanity and chaos can blur, especially when a town or even a society can no longer stop moving. Discover another forgotten chapter of history in our next video, exploring the silent epidemic that swept through 19th century France.